Here I am with Mr. Brian Gates, who is one of our esteemed members of the Alive Partner community. I am Dr. Mario, founder and creator of the Alive Partner community, alivepartner.com, the Wanted Man Mentorship program, the heart-to-heart female-specific mentorship program, and the 7-day Stop Fighting Challenge. Today, I'm completely honored, and it's a huge privilege to be sharing with all of you in my community the presence of a gentleman who has been in our community for a long time now. And not only that, somebody who has been participating in numerous programs that we offer. Amongst them, he started with the Alive Partner course, which he has become a master of. And then he joined basically the rest of the time as a member of the Wanted Man Mentorship program. I have received a lot of questions along the way and people messaging us directly about what is it to be in the program, even though I talk about this in emails and so on. So rather than me talking about it and me saying how great something is, I figure that the most powerful, honest, transparent, and sincere way to do that was to actually have somebody in an unscripted way talk about what the experience has been. So I want to welcome in the warmest of ways to my dear friend and community member, Mr. Brian Gates, to this conversation. And just wanted to ask him some questions so that he can actually share with you what this experience has been. So Brian, how are you doing today?
I'm well, Mario. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for being here with us. The first thing that I wanted to ask you, Brian, is what specific things were you dealing with? Some people may think about it as struggles, challenges, perhaps. Some people may say problems. What things were you dealing with that basically brought you here and you said to yourself, I'm just going to give this a try?
So I guess it was about 8 months ago, maybe a little longer now. Time flies when you're having fun. But I had been going through a pretty rough patch. I got divorced, or in the process of divorcing, or was divorced. My ex-wife of 28 years, and things had been relatively contentious during the process. I had had a falling out with my youngest son, which was difficult to navigate. I had met an amazing person in a long distance relationship, and our relationship had been going well. But I started to encounter the same types of issues that I had experienced prior, both with my ex-wife and in my interpersonal relationships in general. And basically, just kind of was on that hamster wheel, rinse, lather, repeat. My professional life was going very well. I had thrown myself into my work, and honestly, probably had some of the best professional success I've had in years. But what I didn't realize was how much I was suppressing and how angry I was. And it manifested itself in an evening one night where I lost my cool in a situation that was just unacceptable. And what really bothered me about it is the next day, after having a pretty good argument with this person, with my girlfriend, I realized it was me. And I realized that there was other things here going on that I was just not aware of, and that I had a lot of feelings that had been repressed, all the way back probably to my dad, which I know it sounds like psychobabble, but it's not. It just I kind of made a decision that next day that this person was important to me, and that it was important for me to get into my own stuff and figure out what this was. And I've known Mario a little bit outside. So I knew I knew that there was a program that he was working on, and I'm not the type that's going to go to a traditional route, psychotherapist, any of that. That's just not going to happen. That's not who I am. But I decided I was going to give this a try. And, it started off probably in February of this year, and it's been one of the best things I've done. But it took that moment in time Some people call it rock bottom. Some people call it, the end of the road. I think it was more of a moment of clarity that, okay, it's time for me to understand where these things are coming from, and where else is this bleeding over in all facets of my life.
Ryan, when I hear you talk about having been able to have the capacity to identify some things at that point, you actually said, hitting rock bottom, that may be a different way of saying it for different people, or it means something different for different people. For anybody who's watching this and is also a man, and it's an alpha guy, a go-getter, a successful guy in many respects, what would you say are some of the things that lead you to identify that there's a rock bottom moment going on? Because as you well said, it's not typical for guys to kind of start looking for things, but there's millions of us who've been struggling with things, and it's really affecting not only our marriages, and it's really starts to spill over onto the professional side of things and the professional success, the financial aspect of succeeding and so on. And everything gets really tangly, really, really just kind of mambo jumbo in there. So what would you say are some of the things that, as you think about other males in your life who are also successful as well, but you start to see and have the awareness of like, this guy's going through this type, this guy's going through that stuff. If that person is listening so that he can understand what that rock bottom looks like, could you actually speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, I think it's different for all of us. For me, I've always used, I guess, the cliche, or the definition of doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, is the definition of insanity. Just is. And I've always been really good at that in a business setting, but never in a personal or emotional setting, which is kind of ironic now. But it's that feeling of that anger, in the moment, you're just kind of letting it go. But then the next morning, that oh God, I got to apologize. Like, this is my fault. And I just kind of, I remember I sat up, I wound up spending the night away from my girlfriend at the time. I remember sitting up in the hotel room going, what are you doing, dude? Like, where did that come from? Why did it come from? But as I said, that feeling of, man, I've been here before. I've seen this act again before, whether it was deja vu, what I don't know what it was, but I could feel it in that moment that, yeah, I'm going down the same road with this, and it all kind of came rushing in at one point. Like, there's got to be a better way, and if it's out there, I'm a big proponent of, put a challenge in front of me, I'm going to figure a way around it. I think probably all of us have a lot of that. It's part of who we are as alphas. It's just, I'm going to figure this out, and it was probably my. I'm glad I did. But it was also scary, like, all right, I'm gonna have to, do some things that might make me a little uncomfortable in the beginning, that not outside. It's very hard for people who think like we do to be vulnerable, I guess is the word for it, and to kind of drop that wall and drop that. But people look to us to lead, look to us to be the one with the solution, not the one with the challenge. So that was it. But I knew at that moment, and it didn't go away. I guess that was the other thing. Like, immediately I was like, this is stupid. Like, I'll apologize. This will be fine. But all during the day, all the next day, it was just that voice in the back of your head going, no, man, you're onto something. Don't let it go. And, I would say it took me about 3 or 4 days to reach out. But over that 3 to 4 days, I could not shake the feeling of, this has got to get fixed. It's kind of, for you guys in the business world, it's that, you've got to make a decision. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough, but it's the right decision, and it's got to be done. And that's and at the end of the day, it will be better. That little bit of uncomfortable feeling, it's temporary. We're going to get through it, and we're going to come out better on the other side. This is the same thing. It's just I know for me, it was very difficult to admit to myself that this is what I need to do.
It's very powerful to hear from a guy like you who has achieved the things you have and who's had the successes that you have had and continue to have, which have been amplified now through the work, to be able to say, yeah, I had that fear, I felt this, but I knew inside of me that something had to be done, and it was a little uncomfortable. Boom, I'm going to do it. And then things have completely changed. So for somebody who doesn't know any of this work, could you please speak about, coming into the Wanted Man Mentorship program and what that experience has been? Because that one of the things that is kind of funny about us is that we don't like anybody to tell us what to do. We hate to hear our partners tell us that we need to do some work on ourselves when we are kind of like, we're the solutions people and the go-to people. We don't want to hear it. We don't tend to be the ones gravitating to going to away retreats and going to the self-help book collection at Barnes and Noble or your local library. That's not really the comfortable zone for us. That's not the comfort zone. So what has this been like? Because the alpha guy, the guy who's a leader, coming into being in a space with another guy to kind of talk about what's not working, it's not really where we will rather be telling people what to do rather than to actually considering other things to do. So tell us a little bit about what was it like to come into the mentorship program?
Yeah. I think in the beginning it was definitely best way I could equate it is when you book a sales training for your team. And as the leader and your customer service, whatever, you're there listening. But let's be honest, and I'll be honest, I'm always evaluating the guy like this. I can take it. Like, what are you going to teach me? And I kind of came in a little bit with that, with my walls up, kind of, all right, what are we getting into? And it was probably even more here because in a business setting, okay, I know the right terms to use. I know how to kind of conversate and be able to sound intelligent. With this, not so much. So I was definitely guarded in the beginning. There's no doubt about that. I was definitely evaluating Mario as a person first. It was easy to tell that we had a very similar look on life. Mario, obviously, you've been extremely successful business-wise. You've been successful in the coaching world. You've experienced all that. I had some business coaching, but never on a personal level. Quite frankly, I think I had 3 sessions when my marriage was ending, and I hated it, despised it. So I definitely came to this with, all right, we're going to try it, and I committed to myself that I was going to give it a full try, even if I wasn't down after the first one. So, but amazingly, I would say in the first 20 minutes of us just talking, it was evident that, okay, this is different. This guy knows what he's talking about. This guy is experienced things that I've experienced, both on a personal and professional level. This isn't about, my mom dropped me on my head when I was younger. It was just very, very easy. It was having a conversation, and it was interesting to hear somebody going through the same thing I was and being totally open about it. That's, I think, what hooked me immediately was that okay, there was that common connection that this guy. This isn't somebody who, on a sales group, we say, those who can't do, teach. So we didn't have any of that. There was definitely, for the first 5 to 10 minutes of that conversation, I was hooked. And I wanted to get to know this program and Mario in just a better way, a different way to kind of harness or kind of give me a different set of tools to deal with some of the stuff that I had been going through.
As you have been in the process, and I, it's been incredible to see your transformation and the power that you have harnessed as a man that you had inside of you and now grow it to such an exponential level. It's really remarkable. what if you were to describe what's been that process like to somebody who's like, as you said very correctly, there's this skepticism going on. It's like, what is this person going to teach me? What does he know? And you said it best, like the people that really need it most are the ones who are teaching it. So I mean, I completely can see that and sympathize with that. It's funny, but it's true in many ways for many people. Um, but somebody who actually is very successful, it's typically very reluctant to look into other things because they're going to lean onto their success and they're going to be like, what does this person who doesn't do or understand my world has to teach me about that? Clearly, as you said, my background is different from most people out there. But nevertheless, please speak to what that particular person who's just like skeptic, like, who is this guy to be teaching me anything or trying to fix my marriage or trying to fix my life? Because I think that's a misconception about coaching. Like, I'm trying to fix you. But this journey in a life partner and certainly in the Wanted Man Mentorship program has never been about like, let me teach you a lesson and let me fix you, Brian. Can you speak to that so that person who's got a very well-fed and healthy skeptic inside of him understands, not for me, but for somebody who can relate to that just as much as I can too, what that is like?
Yeah, and that's a way more articulate way, better way to say that than I was thinking. It it's not you've challenged me, but you've never ever given given me direction, or direction is the wrong word. You've never told me what to do, because people like that's immediately going to elicit a different response in most people like us. Um, the work, I mean, yeah, in the beginning it was a little bit interesting. It was outside my comfort zone. There's no doubt about that, but it wasn't hard. It you know, I think one of the things we as people or similar people in this community, we all know how to take the medicine and kind of grind it out and do what you got to do. And I think when I first started that, that's what it was. It was definitely, I was intrigued, but it was a grind. It was a grind for the first very short period, but still a grind. Um, it quickly became something different. Um, it came, you know what? I want to read this. Wow. Okay. There is a different way to approach when I'm feeling anxious about something, or there is a different way to kind of feel into things or deal with emotions versus, bury them, push them down so that we don't have to deal with it. And I would say in the first two sessions, after the second session, the work was not difficult. I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed the live partner course. I thought that was amazing. For me, who has been accused of not necessarily having the longest attention span, I found it easy. And it was 30, 40-minute modules, quick. I listened to a lot of them on a plane. I travel a fair bit for work. But yeah, I would say to everybody, or to anybody thinking about this, you have to commit, and then you have to. It's kind of like a Netflix show, right? Maybe the first one's not great, but because you're just not comfortable. But get through the first one, because it gets way better after that, and way easier, and you'll be finding yourself like a good TV show, kind of running to do these things during the week. And looking forward to the conversations at the end of the week. Just it's life changing, guys. There's no other way. There's no other word to use but that. And believe me, as I'm saying it, I'm laughing to myself, because probably as you, you're probably going, wait, really, like that fast? Yeah, it's that fast. It's that fast.
Ryan, one of the things that men like us fear the most is that getting into the touchy-feely thing is going to somehow rob us from being alpha guys or becoming sissies or ending up wearing skirts and heels at the end of the day, and becoming softies and kind of like becoming yes men to our women. And so one of the counterintuitives about a man like myself talking about these things and teaching about these things is that the men who may be listening to this and thinking, well, am I going to end up being a softie, this and that? Can you actually speak to what has happened to you in terms of your male nature? Because as we know, it's got nothing to do with any of that. And in fact, it's the opposite.
No, that's for sure. That was Mario hit it right on the head. I mean, that was something definitely in the beginning. I was like, what are we doing here? Like, that's not me. I'm not touchy feely. I'm not, I'm probably like 95% of the people in this audience, but it's not about that. It's about understanding your feelings and understanding how to work through that and understanding how you communicate with other people. Like, that was one of the biggest things for me with this, was I didn't realize how poor of a communicator I was. And I'm in sales. It's, when I say poor communication, I mean with interpersonal relationships with people, both my children, girlfriend, people that work for me in a company. I was very dictatorial, probably is the way to put it. And I was gonna tell you what you needed so we could get done, move on to the next one. And by learning how to feel that in me, the emotions that came up in me, because it was always a defense mechanism. I was that way because I didn't want to be challenged. I didn't want to feel like inferior to somebody who worked for me, or I couldn't talk to my children and kind of be dad, or my girlfriend, like, yeah, okay, like, this is the way things are going to work, and it really helped. No, it has not made me less of a type A. It 100% not. But what it has done is helped me cultivate better interpersonal skills and the ability to manage my own feelings that come up, and better. It's made me a better dad. Honestly, I think I've shared this with you, Mario, but my daughter made a comment to me very recently, like, "Who are you, and what did you do with my dad? And whatever you did with him, don't bring it. Keep this guy." So, and she's older, so it's okay. She can get away with that. But no, it's just made me more aware. That's the answer. It's made me more aware and present in people's lives, and in business, it's made me way more dangerous than the boardroom. So it's that's an ancillary benefit, but it's definitely a benefit.
That's awesome. Brian, when you were you sitting right now and looking at this journey and how much you've done, which has been really incredible, and you think about where are you now, can you speak? I'll ask you about a few different areas. One of them, which is super important for men that may be coming to the community, having tremendous challenges with their partners in their relationship. Maybe they're on the verge of divorcing. Maybe they're talking about separation. Maybe they're actively and actually separated, but with the intention of somehow working it out and so on. Can you speak to where are you now because of this work as it pertains to your woman and how your relationship is as you look back? And obviously we get to celebrate it now because it's been exponentially different.
Yeah. In terms of my personal relationship, I don't want to say night and day, because it was good before this, but there was definitely problems. It was getting rocky. I guess that's the best way to put it. We hadn't got to the point where we were thinking about ending it. Well, hopefully. I wasn't. She might have been. But it's completely changed. I mean, she is divorced also. We had a really strong connection when we met, and kind of developed that for a little while. It's hard to put into words. We don't. I know this sounds crazy. It always drove me nuts when people are like, "Oh, we don't fight." That's not. But we don't fight. We have disagreements, and I think that's very different. Like, we get into it prior to this. it would be something where it would sometimes blow up. Sometimes, it would go on for a couple of days and just the silent treatment. And I think everybody on this call knows where I'm going with that. It's not that anymore. It's really open communication. I know I'm better equipped at understanding what comes up in me or what I feel immediately when these things start, and I'm able to deal with it and not let that become part of the argument. The stuff that it's what's going on in the present is what the argument's about. And they're so few and far between. Honestly, it's not a thing anymore. It really isn't. Yeah, I mean, we have a long distance thing, so there's things that come up with that a lot. But all of that is gone. Not gone, but it's able to be dealt with for me. And because of that, I think she feels more comfortable and has been way more responsive, way more unguarded. It's honestly, I wake up it used to be, and I think you made this analogy, Mario, and I think it's ideal. You're at a fire. There's stuff all around you. I can see 2 feet in front of my face. And for me, that was what it was like when I was going through my divorce, and how much that kind of bled over even after it. When I would have a fight with her, or something went wrong with my kids or my parents or work, and I was just in that moment. And now with this, I'm able to put the fire out and kind of see the rest of the place. So that's kind of the best way to put it. I'm in a good place. It's not all. I don't want it to sound warm or fluffy, but you have the ability to even take what would normally cause me to spiral. You're not going to get me off center. You're just not. You might for a second. I'll feel that, but I know how to come right back on center. And it really has made challenges easier to navigate, and the good, great.
Ryan, one of the things that men that come into our community, or men who may be looking at our materials and our videos and so on, that have in their minds is the aspect of sex has really kind of died. The level of connection and intimacy has been wilting away. They really feel as though the woman is in one planet, he's in another planet. He doesn't really understand what the hell she wants. Because no matter what he does, it somehow lands for him as though it's not good enough. And for men, not that it isn't for women, it's really important to have sex, to have a healthy sexual relationships and intimacy. It's a big deal for us, right? Especially guys who are go-getters, guys who are just out there leading other people like you are. And then you come into this vulnerable space, with your woman, where the last thing you want to do is just want to have sex and not be able to have it because something just is off and she's turned off, or whatever the case may be. It's just not happening. And a lot of men are seeking support with that, or many others don't even know how to actually start to seek support with that. Can you actually speak to, in your experience, when you do this work, how things start to land for the other side, and how, and this is not unique to you, is also happens to other men, but I want them to hear from you. What starts to happen with a woman that in the beginning, it's like, was that just like a one-off? And then as time goes on, it's like, no, it's like spot on every single time these things are happening.
Yeah. And I guess the best way I can explain it, or try to give a little bit of a explanation, I guess that is best word. After you kind of start to figure out what's going on with you, you're able to learn to, again, be more aware of what your person needs. And it's, you'll be amazed at, like, the way I would put it is, when I came to Mara, we were probably together almost a year and a half, 2 years. So it was a little bit of time, but within almost in the first couple of sessions after that, just the way I was speaking to her and the way that, we were handling challenges that came up between us, she kind of looked at me when we were in the kitchen. She kind of looked at me like, who are you? Like, what's going on? And I was like, I don't know what you mean. And we kept talking. And it was, we were not in that place where, it would, as I said, where it was going completely sideways. But I have been in that place before. What I will tell you is, since that connection, because you really do, you start connecting at a way deeper level. I know that some of you right now are probably rolling your eyes. I get it. I probably would have been too 8 months ago. But yeah, it's like that first couple of weeks in a relationship, guys. It really is. It's but with more depth. Not the I'm not gonna show too much right now, because I'm not sure if this girl even likes me. So it's that, imagine that feeling with with a connection of time and experience and everything else. It's just easy. I guess that's Maury, you've heard me say that a million times. It just gets easy. Work gets easy. Life gets easy. You're and I have been in that hole. Believe me, I've been in that foxhole. I know. I have experience what some of you are maybe going through, especially with the ending of a relationship. It's brutal, and we're just not. We don't. A lot of us, especially, the crazy that makes us good is the crazy that also destroy us, and this helps with that, and it really helps on the partner's side to see that vulnerability, that hey, this guy, wait a minute, like, I can be myself with this guy. I can kind of let my guard down a little bit, like, and that's definitely scary in the beginning, because you don't know what's coming. But now I'm a person who, the person I'm with, if something good happens, I want to call her and tell her, right? There were times where she's very super independent, amazingly independent, and that was just not a thing. Like, and now it's the other way around. She's come to me. So, and it's been a really, really good thing. There's hope. There's absolutely hope, but you have to, if you want to save it, you got to fix this first. And that's what this, not fix. You have to learn how to use this first. That's better way to put it.
Ryan, some people, they come into the community with one particular goal. The goal may be that they want to have more sex. The goal may be that they want to save their relationship. The goal may be they may want to try to understand what's going on so that things get better. But one of the huge byproducts, particularly for the successful man who is looking at this information, is not understanding the power of this work to actually completely revamp their professional life. And for somebody like you who deals with big numbers, you've had some incredible experiences that have saved your company millions of dollars, and in some cases has actually allowed to create incredible deals for the company in projects that were kind of floating, and you've been able to bring this work. So I want you to, I'd like to invite you to speak to the professional guy who's looking at this, who's being consumed perhaps by some of these challenges they're having in their relationship, and how this is going to completely change their financial life, the business life, as a huge byproduct of it that they may not even be aware that is completely sucking the life away from the business. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't realize, I had no awareness of how, I mentioned the word angry I was prior, and how that manifested itself, and how short I was with people in business. and how manipulative I was trying to be. Honestly, the biggest changes when I started doing this program came in the business world. Honestly, first, it really did. That was where, because I started using some of the tools that I learned in contentious situations where normally, we all know how to do conflict resolution. We all know, negotiation techniques. We know all that, right? That's trainable, and experience helps. But coming at it from a way where you use your newfound ability to be aware and feel, and coming at it that way, coming at it with nonviolent communication, things like that, which sounds like a buzzword, but it's not. You're able to diffuse situations quickly. I said this to Mario. I'm a golfer, and one of my favorite movies is Bagger Vance, where they show kind of that line when he's making a putt. And I said to him, "That's kind of how I feel. Like I walk into a meeting now, and I'm like, okay, I know how this is going to go. I know how this is going to go. I'm going to stay focused. We're going to get from A to B, and we're going to might have to use C, D, and E, but we're going to get there." And it's made me a way better negotiator, way better. Maybe a way better, president. It's made me a better leader. There's no doubt about it. You start to be. I don't think anybody would call me empathetic 8 months ago, but you are, and it doesn't mean that you're soft, like we've said before. I'm still the same. I can still be the same bear if I need to be, but that's not level A. That's not first option. First option is, okay, let's everybody let's figure out what we need here and develop a win-win situation. It's made the job easier. It really has. Less complicated. It's made the interpersonal reactions between clients, between employees, it's just made it different. And I've had a couple of really interesting experiences with people that have worked with me for a while, just kind of looking at me after a meeting, after we've closed something, that they didn't think there was any chance that this thing could go well. And as they walked out, one of my senior regional guys looked at me and goes, "Boss, I don't know what that was, but keep doing it." And it was just, it was comical. I actually chuckled to myself, but you really do, because this work, while not difficult, is unbelievably powerful. There's no doubt about it. I've done the carriage negotiations, the other stuff for business, and yeah, great, sure, but nothing has been more beneficial for me than getting myself centered, and then being able to just communicate clearly with empathy and feeling into situations. It's made me way better. And on a financial scale, that if you told me we would be where we are in 3 to 6 months, 8 months ago, no way. But it just manifests on top of itself. There's no other way to put it.
Ryan, it's hard for people to believe that doing inner work, emotional work, however they see it out there, could actually make you money. And you know better because you've experienced it, not just once again, one off, but every single week. Can you speak to the guy who is a successful financial guy, business guy, who clearly is going through some of the things that you can so powerfully and openly speak about now, to let them know, let me tell you how this will make you money? And you speak to that, because that guy is probably thinking, this is BS.
Yeah. Well, I think it's not so magical, we're not selling day trading, like it's, I think what it is you come in, you're bringing your whole self to that process. When I was before this, I was probably only running on 50 to 75% of what I could bring to the table. So, I was successful, It's great. But now let me come with 100% and let's see what we can do. So that's your ROI. It's you were walking into that, and I was walking into that business meeting with 50% of my abilities, 75% of my abilities. That's it. I didn't have the full toolkit. I didn't. Plus, I was, like that smoke-filled room. I could see this way. There was nothing to the left or right. And whether you believe it or not, and believe me, I would be the person that would sit on the other end of this thing, sitting there going, I don't let emotions bother me. I don't let that happen. When I'm negotiating, when I'm trying to close a deal or with people, help them close a deal, it's all about the deal. Not true. And I can see it now. I was not there. I was still winning. We were still winning. We were still successful. But it was either, we didn't win at the right margin. We had to give something else in, or we took advantage of somebody, whatever. We got the job, but we didn't get a client because it was just, I was not walking into that meeting completely present, completely focused, and balanced. And can I quantify it? I can tell you that this year we will do probably 1.5x of revenue that we did last year. Now, is that because of this completely? No. But it's definitely a piece of that. There's no doubt about it. Now, I'm a better person, as I said. I'm a better father, a better companion, and I am a better business leader because of this.
Thank you. Moving on to another area here, as anybody's listening to you right now, they may be wondering, is this really for me? And that's something that, because when we see other people succeed greatly at something, it's like, well, that's because Brian is he's just a, pretty amazing business leader, and maybe that's why he's just crushing it, or he just has this thing. But we actually know that that's not the case, because this is all really reproducible. So anybody watching this right now, who would you say that you would recommend this to?
I think this program can help a lot of different people. I think for me, anybody who is got to a point where, as I said before, you feel like you're on the hamster wheel. You feel like, man, it just doesn't get easier. Like this is the same stuff over and over and over again. I think this course is definitely meant for drivers, for alphas, however you want to call it. There's no doubt about it, because you definitely have to be able to own it. Like you have to be able to do the not hard work, but you have to be able to do the work, and you have to be self-motivated, and you have to be, honestly, I think for all of us in this community, you're I'm sure everybody's successful, but you're successful because you have that. We may not like it, but you have that drive to be better, and you have that drive that there's got to be a better way than this, a better mousetrap. We've all heard that before. That's the type of person that's going to benefit for this. The type that is tired of that, being tired, tired of that, feeling like it's just the same thing over and over again. And being frustrated that, why am I so successful in my life in one part of it, but I can't translate that in the others? What you're constantly looking at, if you're running a business, you're constantly looking at metrics going, wait a minute, why is this person doing better than this person? How do we get a performance plan to make them better? Things that we do innately when we're looking at our businesses or our jobs. We don't do that for ourselves. And I think that's the person who benefits from this. The person that, whether we want to admit it or not, knows there's something there, knows it, can feel it. When you're sitting there by yourself and you're quiet, and that little nagging voice is in your ear, that's the person. Listen to the nagging voice. And as I said, I was talking to somebody about this program the other day, and I kind of finished with it and said, what do you got to lose? You know, what do you have to lose? A little bit of time? Okay. But what if it works? That's kind of the way I would put it. Yeah, it's guys, I wish I found this sooner. I do. I wish I found it sooner. I think it would have helped me to deal with the divorce better, so that maybe I wouldn't have had some of the challenges I'm working through with, my son and even my ex. Like I wish I was able to be aware of the issues there, because I wasn't. I was angry. I was I wasn't the person I am now. Let's put it that way. It would have made life easier to have started this journey sooner, but I started it, and there's no way I would go back.
Ryan, there's something that we men say, and women too, which is this aspect of, if I knew then what I know now. Can you speak to that with respect to the doubters and the skeptics, and those who truthfully may be in a situation that they feel so overwhelmed and somehow they stumbled upon this work? What would you say to that person?
Do it. It's I've been there. I know that overwhelmed feeling. I know that, that feeling the walls are closing in. I get it. I feel that. And even worse, I can't show anybody this. Like if I show somebody this, it's gonna be, a nightmare in my career. Like people are gonna sense weakness. They're gonna come after me. Like all this stuff. My competition is gonna know about it. So. But once you start doing this, and once you, from a personal relationship, once you're okay, I'm going to let this person see that, maybe I have some insecurities around some things, and maybe, I don't like when this happens. I feel that here's what I feel, and I'm going to tell you, and I'm not going to worry that, oh, is she gonna think I'm weak? Is she gonna think this? No, it's again, just I keep coming back to the same thing. What do you have to lose? Give it a shot. It's changed me for the better. It's not, it's not that. It's not Tony Robbins. It's not, it's not that. I wouldn't respond to something like that. It's not, as I said before, oh, my mom dropped me on my head when I was younger. Like that's not in my DNA, and that's not what this is. It's giving you the tools to deal with life, or to deal with emotions, and to understand where they're coming from, and understand how to process them, and how to not to bury them, and not to just let that. I think you said to me one time when we first started talking, you're doing really well and you're running really fast, but you've got 5,000 pounds tied to you. Like, imagine what you'd be doing if you didn't. And that resonated. And it's something that, now looking back at that guy, and now who I am sitting here, it's a different animal.
Makes a lot of sense. Really powerful. When you talk about this aspect of what do you have to lose, I wanted you to maybe share a few words about, well, what are you going to lose if you don't do something about it? Because, right, you said you can actually give this a try and just have a couple of sessions, or else, right? Speak to what would be those losses.
Yeah, I mean, no way I'd be with the girl I'm with now. No chance. No way I'd be happy in that relationship, secure in that relationship, kind of looking completely anticipating what's coming next. I mean, saying that now and thinking back, even 8 months ago, like the anticipation was not necessarily a good thing. It is now. I can't go back to that person that try to be at times overbearing, 100% overbearing. You know, I just can't. Even with my kids, it's, you know, letting them speak, letting understanding how to help them without quote unquote helping / telling them what to do. I would not have the relationship I have with them. Even being able to go back and, you know, fix some of my family familiar relationships, you know, like just some of that. It's hard to really envision because it's not an option, I guess is the best way to put it. It's just not an option. From where I was then to now, and I don't want to sound like, you know, I was an emotional wreck, but it's that different of a place. That's all. It's easy. That's all. That's that word that keeps coming back in my head. It's easy. It just becomes easy. You're taking on challenges, experiencing life. I'll say alive, but it's, you know, with 100% of yourself. Like, just, okay, like I'm bringing everything I got to the table. I'm not handicapped. You know, I'm not holding back. And I know on the other end, you're sitting there going, I don't hold it. You don't even, I can tell you, I'd be the first one to say that. But I wasn't coming to the game with all my tools. That's really what it was.
Ryan, one of the things that people fear most, especially us men, is that going into something like this, because that's the idea they may have, it's going to be psychotherapy, and we're just going to have to go back to the age of like 1 day old to try to fix you and try to psychoanalyze every single little crap in detail and deconstruct you. Is that really what happens here? Because the premise is very different, and it's about leveraging your power now and working with that onward, and not trying to nitpick you and do stuff like that. Can you speak to that?
No, you only go through that for the first 3 sessions, and then we're good. No, I'm just teasing. I'm teasing. No, it's none of that. I don't think we've ever even remotely got close to something like that. You know, I feel, you know, you do. I do a lot of most of it is me talking, you know, but not like in a, I'm going to say therapy way, but not in a therapy way. It's a conversation. I mean, you and I can have the same conversation we have every week on a golf course, in a locker room, in a, you know, it's maybe the locker room would have a little different character to it, but no, it's just you learn how to express or how to feel. You learn how to, and that's the word. You learn how to you learn how you learn how to take to understand why you get these feelings, like where this stuff is coming from, and how to process it and how to move it through. You know, it's definitely not a clinical. I don't have experience with it. I can tell you the 3 times I've done it, I squirmed in my seat for an hour, you know, and I was, the second that thing was done, I was out the door and never thought another thing of it until the next week. I was there because I had to be there. That it was not anything that I wanted to be involved in. And now it's actually interesting because now, after doing this thing there, I was like, oh, you're such a dummy. You were such a dummy back then. Like, you had no idea, and I still couldn't do it. But it's no, if that's your fear, it is unfounded, and that's, I have never ever participated in anything like that other than the marriage thing for three sessions, and I never would. It's just not something that it's not something I would have done, or will probably, maybe now, who knows? But even now, the thought of that kind of pushes me. The feeling of dread is right here. So it still hasn't done that much.
Knowing what you know, when do you think someone should start doing this? Now that they know about what this experience is about, when should they start?
as I think I said it before, I think the one thing we're all good at because of our nature is to be analytical, to be a problem solver, to be, the guy in the room with the plan when things are going sideways. But we call it, I would call it intuition. I don't know why. I don't know why I think this way. I don't know what it is, but man, we're gonna do this. Like, and we're gonna go full on. And mostly, you want to call it your gut, you want to call it whatever it is. I can't quantify why I want to do this. And there's times where you're wrong, but the majority of guys, probably most in this community who are successful, are right more than they're not. That same intuition, that same feeling, that same gut, it's the right thing to do. It is. It's back here, or here. It's there, but you kind of push it off. You kind of push it off. You kind of push it off. So what I would say is, if you're having those feelings that something's got to change, and it's not just her, it's not just him, it's not, it's part you. You don't want to admit it. You don't want to be vulnerable to that. You don't want to have somebody else kind of, you having to tell somebody that. Yeah, that's not cool. But it's the time. And now it's be the alpha and get it. Be the alpha and get it done. Just get it done. It'll change your life. It'll change your life.
Ryan, lastly, what would be the cost of not doing, something like this in your life? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, it'd be the same. I'd be on the same rat race, same, close to burnout. Probably going through the motions. No, I still think I'd be successful. In my business life, my personal life would not be. I wouldn't be with the amazing person I'm with now. I don't think I'd have the relationship with my kids or my family that I have now. I would not be as successful at business than what's going on now. The company wouldn't be as successful. And I'd be that guy. I'd be that guy that, still had, still could be triggered. And that's a word I hate, but it is, just kind of short fuse, kind of, not really present with anybody. Just, fun to hang out with, fun to be in a setting with, but not really with connection with most people. Very few people I would add a connection to, if any, real connection. And look good on the outside. Everything looked like had it going, put it together, but a mess on the inside. A mess. Burying anything that was a challenge, I'd bury. Eventually, not going to end well. It doesn't. It's why you look at why we die young. It's yeah. It would not have ended well.
Before we conclude, I just want to ask one last aspect of your experience to share, if you may. I made it very clear in the Ally Partner community and in my programs and everything I write and videos I make that the challenges that we are dealing with on a daily basis, which we address here in the Ally Partner community and through our courses, it really change your health. And I, as a physician, I have seen how men are dying early and are contracting diseases that are chronic diseases, whether it's diabetes, high blood pressure, different forms of cancer, whether it's prostate cancer, lung cancer, autoimmune illnesses. And I have seen how a lot of this work really has an impact on so much, which is hard to explain to people unless you have been a patient of something and you have experienced how your health has completely changed or dramatically changed in some regards because of this. There are two areas in your life that you have benefited immensely. You're a very active athlete, and some of the sports that you practice are contact sports. And on top of that, you were managing a medical condition, and because of a lot of this work, and I would say all of its work, really, even that has actually fallen down the wayside to the point of not even having medications and the doctor not understanding what happened and basically wrapping it up by saying, whatever you're doing, just, I don't know, keep at it. Can you speak lastly a little bit about that? Because there may be a lot of skepticism, but clearly there's a lot of evidence, and you're not the only person who's really experienced this. And even your endurance in your contact sports and what happens at the gym, it's unparalleled for you.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I had a some medical condition that I was taking medication for, and I wanted to get off, and I didn't want to be on it. So I made some dietary changes, but nothing super crazy. Kind of just like we all say, I'm just going to eat better, right? And that's what happened. And I got results recently, within the last month or so. And just what Mario said, the doc was floored. I thought I had to up my medication, and I'm like, nope, actually, doc, I hadn't taken it. And he was she was very, very surprised. But she said, okay, let's try it again. So I have another month or so left, but I feel great. From the gym and some of the contact sports and things like that, we all like to say we feel like we're 20, but kind of do. Numbers that I couldn't dream in the gym, say 5 years ago, like back when I was in my 30s. I'm putting up that kind of weight again, and not because I want to, just because it is what it is. It's just it's definitely made a difference. It's definitely my mental sharpness, my mental. I just have a lot of energy. I bounce out of bed right now, and nothing's really changed. I'm still taking the same supplements I was taking before, taking the same protein, whatever, but nothing else has changed in my diet, and I'm not like exercising more than I have. I'm active. I've always been active. Yeah, it's we've all heard it, right? I mean, how many seminars have we all gone to? Mind, body. They talk about mind and body. It's true. There's something to that. I'm sure if they tested my cortisol levels or my stress levels, they're going to be, way less than they were, say, 8 months ago. So, yeah, look. It was hard for me to fathom that this would make that much of a change, because you said this, you did. You said it would happen, and I was kind of like, being honest now, no way. Like let's slow down. But yeah, it has. It just has, and that's what you said to me when you said that before. What would happen if you change, go back? Like that's not even a thought process in my head. Like there's you will get to a point in this thing, and rapidly, where you're like, okay, there's something going on here. It's that first couple of things that go one way, and you're like, all right, that happened. That happened. It was a coincidence, whatever. Like, so, okay, yeah, whatever. Because I was skeptical in the beginning too. Then something else happens. Like, all right, maybe there's something to this. Like, okay, and then it just keeps happening. Whether it's the health results or situations that would spin me up in a work setting, it's no big deal. Maybe it was a big deal, when HR and somebody else comes in your office, it's a big deal, especially if the corporate attorney shows up. But it's you have the ability to understand what's going on, and you don't let those things all come at you. It's not a magic. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I still get angry. I still say dumb stuff. I still, there's things, but I feel it and I can process it. And that's that for I think people like us. We can't say we're not allowed to be overwhelmed. We're not allowed to be tired. We're not allowed to, feel like the weight of the world is on our shoulders. That's not what we do. You push it down and you move forward. Right? That's for 49 years, to call it, so whatever. But 30 years since I've been in the workforce. That's what you do. And probably before that, I was a kid, an athlete, like you're not hurt. Are you hurt or are you injured? That's the mindset of people like us. And what this does is it allows you to know where that, or feel that, process it, and get it out. So it's not just hanging. Long answer, but I hope it was helpful.
Amazing answer. I want to thank you so much on behalf of the Life Partner community, Brian, for sharing so candidly, powerfully, honestly, vulnerably, which all translates into incredible personal power. It's evident, it's obvious. You have done the work, you have been committed to this. And I really trust that when people see it, not from me, but from somebody who really has been committed to this and seeing the massive results that are real, honest, they get to give things a try in a different way and hopefully experience just as great of results as you've had, which is not unique to you, but it happens to people in the community. So thank you for your generosity, your vulnerability, your sincerity, and your candor in sharing all of this. It just makes you a super powerful man that you are, to a much higher level than ever. So thanks for your time. And if you're watching this is Dr. Mario, founder of alifepartner.com. And I hope that you've gained some insights, very powerful insights from a community member who has shared very openly and transparently what has happened for him as a byproduct of being committed to his own life and knowing that there is a lot better out there that you can actually try now. Until next time, thank you.